Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending the Kuumba Kickback. Welcome to the Creating Community panel. Creating community can be difficult but rewarding work, especially when developing spaces for marginalized people. Founders and managers of different online communities come together in this panel to discuss triumphs, pitfalls, and their love of creating community. We have with us today five or four. Well, I am here as well. Whatever. We have incredible panelists who create community, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you, starting with Robyn-Renée.
Hi, I'm Robyn-Renée Jordan. I'm the co-founder of Black Girls Create, the chief community officer, and I also do a little bit of, the podcasting and content creating, but mostly focused on the community creating of Black Girls Create.
Candice.
Hi, everybody. My name is Candice Johnson, and I am the CFO and COO of Quirk-Chap, an app created for geeks and hobbyists of color.
Holly.
Hey everyone, I'm Irungu. I'm the founder of Black Women Photographers, a global community and directory of over 800 Black women and non-binary photographers from around the world.
Dr. Kishana.
Hi everyone, my name is Kishana Taylor. I am the co-founder and president of the Black Microbiologists Association, which is an association of Black microbiologists. We're about 200 people now. And I guess professionally, I'm a virologist, so that's what I do in my spare time.
And I'm Nicole or Nick. And I am the community moderator at Black Girls Create and your moderator for today. So let's get into it. I want to first start out by asking how you got started in community work. So we're going to go reverse order. So we're going to start with you, Dr. Kishana.
Okay, I apologize for the noise in the background. That's my son. But essentially, I got involved in community work. I guess I've been involved, technically been involved in community work for a really, really long time. Excuse me.
I'll go while she does mommy duty. That is so sweet. Hey y'all. So I guess similar to Kishana, Dr. Kishana, I've always just helped and been in some kind of capacity, not without really realizing it. But for me as a photographer, really it's just going back from my own experiences, what I wish I had, what I wish I knew, the type of community that I was always seeking, but just didn't know where to find it. Really led me to creating this organization called Black Women Photographers. So a little bit of my personal journey, as well as just hearing from other folks, speaking to just different photographers and hearing about their experiences, really pushed me to start something. And now back to you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Let Nip say what he got to say.
Thank you for stepping in. Okay, so yes, I've been involved in community work. I think basically my entire life. I come from a family who does community work, but I got involved in the Black Microbiologists Association, or decided to start it last summer. So as a scientist, I think I'm a little bit different than a lot of the folks here who are more, I guess, not, I don't want to say I'm not creative, but I'm not artsy creative. I'm creative within the bounds of science. And so there was a need for conversations around what it is to be Black in STEM really forever, but it kind of hit a head over the last year. And so that's when I saw the moment was ripe to then build a community that way.
Similarly to Dr. Kishana, I've been working with community my entire life. So I was like a Girl Scout and did a lot of things. And my mother's a part of a sorority. So I always had my hands in, helping some community, whether it be, local or broader. And then as far as the community, like the geek fandom hobbyist community, since I've been a part of it for so long as a kind of like a Black girl nerd, blurred, or geek, or whatever you want to call it, it seamlessly kind of worked. I started writing a blog post for what was the precursor to Quirktastic, the blog version before we were the app. And I wrote some guest posts and then started working at Quirktastic Media, which was the community part, the geek community part of what I did. So I've worked in different communities for a while, but being a part of the geek community helped lead me to working with community in my capacity right now.
I love that. I guess I'm the same. I've always had my hand in some sort of community. I was a jock growing up, so always in part of teams, and my mother was always very, very involved, from like team mom to my dad coaching to being involved in like the church and youth groups and stuff like that. So I've always been around community and different like communal projects, I guess, and endeavors. But online community really started for me kind of lurking, being in the background. And I, we got started with Black Girls Create because I would have these really, really long conversations with my cousin and co-founder, Brianna Davis, and we would talk about Harry Potter and we'd talk about different nerd stuff. And I was listening and working for different podcasts, and I was like, we should do this. And then while we were doing it, I was like, well, we need to have a way in which we can speak to the audience, let the audience speak back to us. And so that's how like our Slack channel kind of grew out of it. And then I've always just been a community minded person. I'm also a community manager in my professional day-to-day life. So yeah, it's always been there for me. And it's mostly about giving people space and a safe place to like figure out how and what they want to do, and then just gassing them up. Like that's what I love to do the most. Is I may not be, having the same output as everyone else, but I am going to be in the background being like, I see you. Oh my God. Where are we gonna, how are we gonna help? Let's collab, let's build. So that is, yeah, my community journey. And I see you, Nick.
I see you. We see each other.
other.
What need did you see that you thought a community would be able to fill? I know Polly kind of spoke to that a little bit, but if you can elaborate more about like that need that you wanted to fill.
Oh man, where to even start? I mean, for those who probably can assume, the world of photography is still very white, it's still very male dominated. So having a real safe space for us to be seen, to be amplified all year round, not just during, Black History Month or whatever it may be, or, last year with the different conversations surrounding the uprising. And so for me, I mean, with the conversations I was having with photographers, it stemmed from just getting real opportunities and not just, mentorship or just, shadowing, but actually getting hired, actually being the ones to get commissioned, actually getting paid and paid fairly, and not below, the rates of their white peers or counterparts. And so, I mean, things like that, just real access, real equity is one of the, I guess, the two of the biggest challenges. And then just having that platform, right, just to get celebrated, to get their work shown, and having that community amongst each other, realizing that we can all win, realizing that there's enough work out there for all of us, that we don't have to compete with each other. We can collaborate with each other and really turn to each other for advice and support. And so those are some of the things that I saw that was needed, and also just what I wish I had when I first picked up my camera.
Say that.
Candice?
I'll go next. Yes. So obviously, what we're seeing now in the 2021 of things is beautiful. A lot of like Blurred's Black Geeks or other like POC geeks just coming together. But thinking back to when I was a teenager, aging myself a little bit, but that was in the 2006-07 of things. It was like Polly was saying, was also very white. It was, white people things to be into anime or to do something a little bit different. And even though, as we know now, that most Black kids were watching Dragon Ball Z or Sailor Moon in some capacity, like it was still like, no, we don't talk about that, or we don't do that. Or if you're gaming and it's not 2K, that's silly. But the noticing the need was having that community of feeling okay to talk about those things without somebody pointing and laughing. Or like in my case, I was, I guess, like passable or acceptable. So it used to just kind of be cute for me to be like a cheerleader and be geeky, but it wasn't cool for maybe like the quieter kid who, Naruto ran around school all day. So bridging the gap between me and that kid in the 2021 of things is really, really cool. But that's how Quirk Chat kind of arose, for the need for true community amongst POC geeks, because we really didn't have that previously.
Dr. Kishana?
Yeah, I would say
Exactly, Neil.
No.
yes, I want vanilla. Thank you.
No,
Okay.
this one.
Okay, thank you.
And this is for me.
Okay, I'm eating ice cream. So basically, basically the way that it is in terms of community in the sciences is you know, Black people and people of color are very much underrepresented, and so a lot of the times there'll be like one or two of us maybe at a job or in a department or like in a specific like section of a company, and so a lot of the times we often feel isolated, and so I felt like putting together the Black Microbiologists Association would allow us to kind of get to know each other in a virtual sense more so than like a physical sense, because we are so scattered around, and that has been really a good way to kind of mitigate some of the negative effects of being one of few in your department or in your area, because you could be like, okay, so this happened to me, and someone else can be like, oh yeah, this happened to me, and you start to like kind of put together systemic patterns, and all of those kinds of things have been really helpful, I think, in kind of supporting the community in ways that we haven't really gotten support before.
And Robyn-Renée? You're on mute.
I'm on mute. For me, it's really it was really about kind of being able to talk about the things that we love without having to do the shorthand or talk about every part of nerdiness. In the last panel that Nick was moderating, they talked about this major thing that happened in Doctor Who, in which you could see all of the Black fans on Twitter being like, oh, here we go again. And then having that be drowned out, or being a lot of white fans being like, oh, you guys are too woke, or you're taking it too serious, or it's not that deep, or whatever. And just being really tired of having to like navigate that and do that like dipping and dodging. And like, no, I want to talk about all of like my fandom and the way that shows up and the way that I think about it. I want to geek out about Doctor Who, but I also want to be able to say, and that thing that they did to Martha was nonsense, and not have to explain anything else. And I want to teach you. I just want to be able to be completely me in my fandom and have a place in which I know that there are other people who are coming at it the same way. That's how Black Girls Create really started. And we really like built that on the critical fandom part, like love the things that you love, but also expect more from them and want more from them. And then we got into, and now that you've been thinking deeply about these things and you know what you like and what you don't like, how about maybe you try to write something? How about you try to create something new, start a podcast, start a website, build something else in what, in what you're interested in. Like, how do you put yourself in that holistically without having to shrink yourself in any capacity, like as a queer person, as a woman or a marginalized identity, as a person of color, as a person who is intersectional and hits all of those things. How do you enjoy these like geeky, nerdy things that you love without having to put all of those pieces of you in a box? Not only to, be able to fit in with the wider fandom, but also to like protect yourself from that fandom. And so that was really like the foundations of Black Girls Create and the Black Girls Create community. Was we want you to bring every single piece of yourself, and we don't want you to have to teach or explain any of that to the people in which you're talking to, and do so like, except if you're Dr. Kishana, and then like you gotta, I don't know what you're saying. She'd be like A, B's, and C- underneath, and science stuff. She got to teach some of that, but like, she doesn't have to teach me why it's important that as a Black PhD doctor, virologist, why it's important for her to have a voice, and also how difficult it was for her to get there. I don't need that shorthand. I got that. I just don't got the science part. So that was really the whole point of Black Girls Create.
Thank you for that answer. And we are gassing Kishana all the way up today. What she deserves.
Always.
So what is something that you wish people knew about working in online community spaces?
Can I go first? I really wish people knew that it seems really silly to say because all of it's business, but it's not all fun and games. Like, we play games, yes, video games, and we have Discords, sure, but it's not all fun and games. It is always not, meetups or cons or cosplay or, whatever. It's really hard work and it's tiring. And the second biggest point is that the landscape changes daily. There's many different facets to like geek, nerd, and fandom hobbyist culture. And so everything's always changing. Like, for instance, we were kind of talking about, there's some times where we have to, I won't say pick a side, but like there's discussions about, do we like the word blurred? Do we hate the word blurred? Do we want white people in our spaces? Do we not? Like, it's always changing. There's never, just one stance that we get to take and say, hey, here we are. Fun work, rewarding work, not easy work, tiresome work.
Me and Robyn work together, moderating Black Girls Create, and so these are conversations that we have like internally, and I don't think people realize how much conversation happens before we say anything as a community, right? Like, I don't think people think that like if I post something, it's about like, it's not me. This is not me. If I'm talking about the community, it's usually been discussed, and we've had like these internal discussions so much. And I like that you said that like it's work. It is also fun. It is also engaging. I also feel very like happy to be in this space and be able to facilitate. But I'm also like, I get tired, like we get tired. Like, Robyn took a break recently, and I'm like, yes, you needed that. Like,
and to add to that, like you're saying, like just for instance, like discussions or things that we put out, whenever we put out a post even or something on social media, or making sure that we're inclusive, because we're including everyone. So of course we have a focus on a lot of groups, but we're including like the LGBTQIA plus community. We're including POC with our different cultures. And when we make a statement or when we post a post or when we were doing whatever, it's thought out. And I use that as an example, like we were talking about National Coming Out Day on our social media. I think that was last week or earlier this week. And we were like, how do we want to present this to make sure that we're not leaving anyone out and that we're including everybody so everyone feels like, they can engage with this. We don't ever want anybody to pigeonhole or say, well, you're leaving out such and such community. No, 9 times out of 10 community work has to be very inclusive, but also has to be very professional. So you're always picking and choosing the right words to say or who to include and make sure everybody feels okay with it.
And then I would say to add on top of that too, if we do end up leaving anybody out, it's not intentional. Like there's always so many conversations and so many things that we have to consider. And so sometimes, at least like I know for our organization, we're run by 5 people. And we've been doing like really big things, right? So we just had Black and Micro Week 2 weeks ago, and it's like a huge event, and thousands of people like tune in to like see the different panels and all of that stuff, which is great. But also, like, if we messed up, we're really sorry. We didn't do it on purpose. And so like please let us know if we have messed up or if there's something that we need to fix, but also please don't approach it as if we are like intentionally trying to hurt people, because we are doing our best to be as inclusive as possible. But we can't think of everything all the time because it's hard and we're tired.
I mean, you guys have covered so much. I was just going to say, like what Candice was saying, I mean, can often be thankless work as well. And I mean, even just thinking about what we're doing right now, this didn't happen overnight. I'm sure you guys planning this kickback took weeks, months. I mean, you probably had conversations since last year about this. I don't know. I mean, this takes a lot of work to bring. This magic didn't just like poof, here we're all together. No, they sent me an email asking for an invitation to this like weeks and weeks ago. So this takes time and effort, and can be often thankless. And also you are living your own life as well. And to juggle all of that and to trying to create those boundaries is really hard when it's like constantly somebody from the community may want something from you when you just are just trying to get some coffee and you already have like 5 people in your inbox asking you for something. At least for personally speaking, it's just like it can be hard. I'm like, man, can I just have breakfast first? So it really is a lot that comes with this work. But like you were saying, Candice, there is the blessings that come out of it as well, right? But at the end of the day, like we've all said, it's work. And somebody has to do the work.
I think too, one thing that, I totally agree with everything that everyone said, but one thing that I think people also don't understand is with how careful you have to be with your language and stuff, you get further and further removed from the community that you created. I can't just go on and be like, I hated that thing, because I have to also be thinking, is this Robyn speaking? Hopefully, like now we've gotten to the point where people kind of are able to parse that a little bit, but there's so many times in which it's like, oh, are you mad at me? And if you're mad at me, does that like change how I interact or engage with the space that you created because you're the founder? And so to be careful to make sure that everyone feels safe, you also have to step away from the thing that you love a little bit, because you don't want people to think that, your word is like, I'm not bigger than any other person in the Black Girls Create community. And we try to say that in like a lot of different ways, and we try to say all the time. I think, we started a community violations, and I probably had like the second one. I had to give myself the violation and then go off and say like, yeah, I did that, and this is how I'm gonna fix it and how I'm gonna, correct my behavior. I've hurt feelings with my own thoughts. Sorry, don't hate me. I don't think that box cake is baking. That became like a big thing. And then I just had to be like, okay, that's my opinion. That's not the stance of Black Girls Create. I could be wrong as well. And I'm, more than happy to say that. But like, it's a little bit interesting the ways in which you have to kind of step back from just being a normal community member because you created the space. And that can be also kind of sad. And you miss it because at the end of the day, you probably found it or started it because you saw the need and it was something that you wanted for yourself. So I think that's the only other thing about online community work that I wish people would know, is that how much you have to censor yourself in the same ways in which when you're trying to encourage people to not censor themselves.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And it's something that we all try to do, is like, I try to make it clear, like I'm talking as myself right now, especially because I'm always making very out of pocket statements about pop culture, because like, it's just fun to me. I like those conversations that stem from like, just like, oh, this show is like, what is this? And they be like, what, you don't like that show? Like, that to me is a fun thing, but it's different than saying like, Black Girls Create does not like this show. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's a line, and I try to make sure that, that I don't cross it, but sometimes it falls through the cracks. And so we just have to self-moderate and, pull each other in and be like, hey, you're not necessarily communicating in a way that's clear. But that's kind of one of the, I guess, not downside, but one of the things that people don't think about a lot. But I want to know kind of what are like your favorite aspects of your community, like the favorite thing that came out of the community.
I mean, there's so much. I think the most recent example is today, right now. I'm currently in Oklahoma, but the New York folks in the BWP are doing a photo walk where over 20 Black women photographers are together, walking down the streets of New York and taking photos with each other and like of each other and having that community, and they're gonna have lunch and all those things. And so like that is just something that's so beautiful. And for some, it may be their first time actually, meeting another Black woman photographer. I don't know. And so it's just great that kind of stuff can happen when you take the online and translate that to in real life community. I feel like it's so special.
I have to say that actually one of the best things that's come out of our community is the inclusiveness of everything, and like not to toot our own horn, but like the app and like all of the other kind of spaces that exist now. Like, again, like you said, when we were younger, we didn't have it. So there's Quirk Chat, and like there's all these other different types of apps where you can go on and talk about, you know, your favorite, like, you know, anime artists online, or your favorite, you know, whatever it is. Like, I think the best part to come out of it is seeing the different types of platforms exist. So like there are a couple other platforms that I follow, just to like shout out and name drop, but there's like Getting Animated, Black Girls Anime, just a couple of different, there's a manga that's coming out that's done by a Black artist called God Punch. Like there's just all these different things coming out, and like they're in fruition now. Before, they used to probably be ideas, or you might have been fearful to actually have them come or like do them or execute them. They exist now, and I love that. I think that's the best part that has come out, particularly in the past 5 to 10 years.
I
would say, I think all of the positive things that have come out of the work that we've been doing. So, right, seeing younger Black scientists be able to share their work with a multi with thousands of people in an audience who get to watch their research be presented. Even though kind of like what Robyn was saying, we don't really interact with the community as much per se, to kind of make sure that we're not filtering through power dynamics too much. I still have found some really good colleagues and really good collaborators and stuff through the community that we have built, and I'm really excited to see the fruition of some of those projects, and have seen other people make those connections as well. So I'm a big E extrovert, and so I like social interaction, and so seeing other people have social interactions and talk and like make friends and organize meetups is all really great. For like, to me, I'm like, oh, look at them making friends, this is great. And so I kind of can vicariously get some energy from people making connections that way. And so that's been really, really cool to see.
I think I have like two. So like on the like more professional side of it, seeing people really like step into themselves, seeing like, we always talk about Nick as being like the shining star of what the Black Girls Create mission is. Like, if you want to know like what that is in action, like just look at Nick and what they've done, which is, you know, freelancing, writing, you know, doing all these things, hosting meetups, speaking at conventions, and being able to kind of find these opportunities from their involvement in the community, but also share what they're doing with the community, and having this like built-in fan base, basically. We published an anthology this year, which is insane. I didn't have much to do with it, but it was great to see and to hear people working on it in the community, and going to like our creator circles and checking in with each other, reading each other's things, editing. And then on the personal side, like, I've met some of my best friends. Eliana's in the chat. She's an amazing director. I get to call her and talk about In Sync, like, and we just, you know, she's one of my people. It's also the kind of thing where we want to do a panel about creating community, and like, Dr. Kishana, do you want to, you know, be on this panel? Like, not only because you've created this amazing community, but also because we love you, and it's another reason for me to get to spend an hour with you. And so I think like the personal side of that is just like meeting these people, and I am a big introvert. I love online community because, you know, we can hang out together alone, separate by ourselves. But I get to like meet these people who are into the things that I'm into, who are working on things that I find really cool, who are doing these really great things, and we can figure out ways in which we work together and build each other up. And then I get to meet people like Candice and Polly, and like, you know, I wouldn't have these opportunities if not for Black Girls Create. And so that is like overall my favorite thing, is just the gas and the love and the gas.
I love hearing what you all thought were like the highlights, because like collectively that is what I agree is like the best thing to come out of being a part of Black Girls Create, and of being a part of a community of people that are just always supporting you. As you can see with these like extras going on over here. So we're all obviously like Black women, and we, like our spaces are curated for other Black women or other Black people, right? So when you're creating a space for marginalized people, it is sometimes necessary for those spaces to be visible to white audiences. So how do you balance creating a safe space with the need for visibility of these spaces?
I'll start, just particularly because it kind of ties into some of the features that we have on the app. So we at Cork Chat, we do not exclude our white audience because they are part of, like fandom, geek, and, hobbyist culture as well. What we do is we make sure that it is communicated that, of course, this is an inclusive space, but also if you're going to be a part of the space, you have to participate and follow our rules. The app has a moderation tool that's already built in, and then we have a kind of an update that comes to it where it's going to be called like second. So basically, if you see something kind of crazy, there's the mod team that's already there that's going to work on it. But there's also like the person, like if you're on the app and you can see it, you would be able to second it. So somebody would flag it and report it and say, okay, not cool. And then you can second and say, I've reviewed this and this is also not cool. Take this to our mod team because it's, pretty whack. So if somebody had maybe used a bad word or something that we don't accept on the app, the second feature will basically give the community, a way to see it too. So it would 9 times out of 10 already be, ganked. Like the mod team would already take it, but the community gets to review it too, just to make sure it's like, no, this is not okay. We don't accept this in the community space, or anything like that. And then additionally, the app, we try to make sure that everyone's comfortable because, of course, like sometimes people may overstep bounds, or like, for instance, people try to use it as like a dating app. So we also say, no, like this is just a space for people to like chill out. Like if you do find love on the app, awesome. But this is not Tinder, this is not Bumble, Hinge, like that's what those are for. You can use this to find community, but also, chill out and be respectful of the space.
I think sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think for us, we are very open about our mission. Like it says if you go on our website, it says what our mission is and who we are for. And then we try to be very like just observant of how the space is being used and what's being talked about. And we will either we've updated guidelines before to make it more clear. We used to have a guideline that said like assume no ill intent. That was being kind of weaponized a little bit, or the idea of that was not that your intent outweighs impact, but it's just assume no ill intent so that we can start from a place of learning and dealing with the impact without thinking like, oh, they're out to get me, right? It didn't work. We had to change it. And so also just kind of being very clear. It says in our mission, like this space is welcoming to all people, but will prioritize the needs of Black women and people and folks of color. So if anything else, we start there. Like if the people who we built the space for are not feeling comfortable, then something has to change and something has to give. And it's going to give in their favor because that's who we built the space for. And I think being very open about that is really important. But then also being very communicative. Like it's not rare for someone, a white person, or we don't have very many men, but like a man, or just a more majority identity, I guess, to come into my DMs and say like, oh, is this okay, or did I mess up here? I don't understand this thing. And we want that because we want to be able to say like, oh yeah, this is like the understanding of it. This is how I see this thing. Especially when we're dealing with people with a lot of different identities. We have neurodiverse people, neurotypical people, and it's textual, so that already, no matter what you're coming at, it can lead to a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding. If we are very clear about like, let's talk this out, bring this to us, and also very clear about our limitations. I can't know that something is bothering you if you do not advocate for yourself, if you do not see it, or everyone comes from different experiences and different lenses on life. So you might read this comment in one way and I read it in a completely different way. That doesn't mean that your reading of it is wrong. It just means that like you can't assume that everyone else is taking it in the same way that you are. So you have to speak up so that we can then deal with the problems or the issues and make that a learning experience for everyone. So I think being very mission driven, mission focused, and being very clear as much as we possibly can about who the space is for at the end of the day, boiling it down to like just the bones of like, this is why this space exists and this is what we're doing to protect the space.
Yeah, I would say we mirror a lot of that in Black Microbiologists Association. And so we welcome everyone, but we make it clear that we are prioritizing Black microbiologists, as is in the name. And then we operate as a community primarily on the Slack, in a Slack. And so we have a channel that we have dedicated specifically to like Black microbiologists. And so they can go there and kind of like vent and get things off their chest, knowing that it's a safe space. And so we have we call our non-Black members basically ally members. And so they have access to the same things that our other members have, except for access to that channel. So that they know they have at least one area or one space where they are safe from having to have, maybe more exhaustive conversations, or that whatever they're complaining about or their messages are getting, sent to other folks who might not understand or really get it. And so in that way, we're still able to prioritize the people who the focus of the professional society is on, but we still make sure that we involve other folks, because we know in terms of like our mission and being able to facilitate conversations about race and science and stuff, we know that we can't have those conversations by ourselves. We know that we need those other community members in order to move forward and to make any progress and how we are treated and those sorts of things. And so that's kind of how we try to maintain that balance of including everyone, because everyone needs to be in the conversation, but also making the space safe enough for folks that they can get out what they need to get out and have that respite in certain areas.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with a lot of what you all were saying. I mean, because like to fulfill the mission, I mean, I think about, with what I do, the folks who hire us, the folks who are in charge, the editors, most of them are white. They are the ones who have the power to hire us, to elevate us. And so I can't do the work without them. I need their allyship. But I mean, like the Slack, like you all, the Slack is just for us. Our photo walks, our in-person events are just for us. But everything else, if you will come and if you don't, cross the problem, that's totally fine, right? Like if you come to the Zooms or whatever, if you just respect the space. And so far I haven't had really any issues. Only when I have an issue is like when there's trolls, when like for example, I just recently announced our grant fund just open for applications, and then somebody commented, why is it a grants for just Black women? Where are the white men grants and all these other things? So it's like those comments always happen, those things always happen. But at the end of the day, just being focused on the mission, who I'm serving, really just for me is just what I do.
Yeah, I think that the major thing is that like the thing about community is you get to choose your community, and I think people forget that like when you're going to a space that's not made for you, you are a visitor there, and like you have to respect that space. And that's whether or not, even if I'm like, if I go to another Black space, but it's like I'm not a photographer, so even if I'm in your space, I'm a Black woman, but I'm not a photographer, I still am a visitor, so I have to respect. I have no like authority in that space, and I think that's one of the big things that's really tricky, and it's especially hard for I think like white people, just because they are used to the space automatically being for them, and so we always have that task of like being inclusive and like you are welcome here, but this is not your space. This is not for you. You should not be censored. You should not expect that your needs and your concerns are the priority. And that's always tricky because you also want to just have, again, your allies and don't. We want you there. We want you because like we all grow when we have diverse conversations and people in our lives, but like we're also here to just like not teach and not have to like tell you how to be an ally. Like your job is to come in and listen and then hopefully you take that out in your life with your spaces, which are probably predominantly white, and then you can say, you know, I've actually been around this, and maybe this is what we can do. But that's not our job to do for you. So I think that's something that like I want to like people to kind of understand about that part. Like we're inclusive, but we're still mission focused. And so this kind of leads to this question, which is, as someone like who runs an online community, I realize that the emotional labor involved in what is often unpaid or low paid endeavor. How do you manage your own well-being while cultivating these communities? And I feel like I'm gonna start with Kishana.
What is well-being? What is that? I'm unclear. I don't understand the vocabulary. Can I get a definition? No, just kidding. I starting to do this work has made me very clear about my boundaries. And so at first it was very much like I'm exhausted. I don't have any energy. I literally cannot do anything else. And so I had to start so like, right, the BMA Slack is not on my phone. It's only on my computer. So I only see it when I'm like on my computer, and that's it. If you have something to say and you don't have my phone number, then you're probably not that important and it can wait. So yeah, I took BMA email off my phone. Basically, so BMA is very much like when I'm in my office, when I'm like working, that's when I handle that business. And when I'm not doing that, I basically yelled at the entire e-board after Black and Micro Week was over and told everyone that we're going on vacation for a month, and that if they open their emails, then I'm going to kick them off the email platform because we all needed a break after all of that work. And so, I have the little one in the back, and he makes it very clear that he wants all of my attention. And so that makes it a little bit easier because he's going to do what he's going to do. And so it makes it a little bit easier, I think, to balance than when he was smaller, or even like when he wasn't here, and it was just easier for me to work myself to death. But both him and his father are very vocal. And so when I'm doing too much, they let me know. And that also helps me to maintain boundaries, even when I'm like, but just give me 10 more minutes. And they're very clear, like, no more.
I think the boundary setting is an important point. And really, I think truly it is the key point in well-being and making sure that you're keeping yourself together. Similarly to Dr. Kishana, like my notifications are separate. So my social media notifications are off. So I have to intentionally like open up an app, which normally for me triggers like, girl, if you opening up this app, you're going to see some crazy stuff. If you're opening up Twitter on the day that DC just said that a Superman was bisexual, you know what you're getting into. So do not open that app. Or, we're going to talk about this when, on Instagram, we're going to send it to the social team. So the boundary setting is super key, and just making sure either whether it's toggling your notifications or curating your social feed. Like especially for me, a lot of what I do is social driven. So like I have to make sure that everything works for me digitally, like in the online space. So I can't, have all the, like I have certain words muted. So that word won't come up on my feed, especially personally, because I just don't need to see it. But just to piggyback on it, boundaries are super key. Like in the digital space, especially, it's just making sure that that this is where you stop, or like people say it like as like a mean thing, but like go outside, touch some grass. Like we're gonna walk around. We're gonna, we're not gonna be on the interneting today. We're just gonna go outside and then like truly be geeks just outside of this space, and then we can come back and reconvene and just not have to see any chaos. That's what we're gonna do. Because what we can't do is Polly was saying about trolls, can't stop them. They're gonna troll. But if I can make sure that I at least don't see it, or I see it later when I'm in a better headspace, then that works out for me for my emotional well-being. And kudos to you, Dr. Kishana, because I don't know, I'm sure there are millions of trolls in the science world. So yeah, I just making sure boundaries.
We have some of our social media team is specifically dedicated to making sure that the trolls stay away and are blocked or removed and all that stuff. So yes.
Shout out to that person, because it's crazy. I'm sure.
Can I hire that person?
Yes, because we don't pay them right now. So you absolutely hire them.
Man, well, one of the things I will do to create more space for wellness is hiring a team, just building a team, getting that additional support. But right now, I've gotten better because at first I felt like I was burning both ends of the candle, right? Like I was just trying to do too much, and feeling like you're not doing enough. When of course it's like you can only do so much. You're only one person, and these issues that we're all solving have been around far before we were here. They're systematic and they can't be fixed overnight. And so for me, I've finally learned how to do boundaries. I mean, my phone is probably 99% on do not disturb. If you have my phone number, like I think you were saying, Dr. Kishana, good for you. You are one of the few. Like, and I mean, if you message me on all 3 platforms, you're not going to get a response. And if I get something on the weekend, it will wait until Monday. And I, so for me, it's just like realizing that, okay, somebody's, where did I hear this? I think I saw this quote on Twitter. Somebody else's urgency is not my emergency. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, yes, like everything can wait. The work will always be there. This weekend, I'm going to watch season 3 of You and nothing else. Like, that is like my plan for today after this. And, and just like creating that boundary and just realizing like, yes, the work will always be there, but I need to be okay. I need to have my cup filled too, and whatever that looks like. And so that is just what I'm always working on.
There's a bee, so I'm trying to keep my wellness of not being stung by this bee. I don't understand how to do it. So what I ended up doing was recognizing that I was burnt out. I do community work for my 9 to 5 job, and which is not 9 to 5 because I work at a social media company, and so it's the same kind of thing where I got people in my DMs on Saturday because that's when they're on social media, and so I took a time off. We told the community, like, if it's important, go to Nick. If it's super important, go to Jesus. I don't know, like Robyn sleeping. I just like needed to, and I was still in the community and I was still, chatting and things like that. But if it was something like super big, like we have luckily, I think, written down and talked. I mean, Nicole talks about how much we talk about things when we make decisions as a group, as a whole, that I think we've gotten to a point where it's like, I can step out and they got it, or I can check in very sporadically, but like you cannot count on me for this long. And then it was also like, well, how long do you think you're gonna be on hiatus? And I was like, and it was literally in a week before Kuumba Kickback, and I was like, okay, guess I'm back now. Like, I think I'm ready. But I think it's really important to figure that out. And also to, like, one of the things that I learned, like with like taking a hiatus from the community and stuff like that, is to be very forceful when you make decisions. And it doesn't feel right? Like, as community builders, we want to talk and we want to collaborate and we want to get people, like, allow people to tell their side of the story and have a discussion and a dialogue. But at a certain point, that back and forth is happening for that one person one time, but you have 7, 8, 9 different people wanting to have a back and forth with you about 7, 8, 9 different issues. And so you have to say, like, nope, sorry, this is it. Conversation over. Gotta go. Gotta sleep. Gotta take care of my dog, which is her whole other beast. But I think as a whole, as a team, we're trying to figure out better ways of doing that, and we're leaning on each other. And I think that that's like the best thing. I wish we could, get paid and pay so that we could only focus on this. But in the meantime, because that's not a reality, it's like we need to lean on each other and we need to raise our hand and say, I don't have it in me anymore, or I can't do this right now, and feel no guilt when you step away. And I think that that's where I'm at. I haven't figured out like a healthy, consistent well-being of like, I can do this all the time and I don't have to just drop off the face of the earth for a month. once I figure that out, I'll let y'all know if I figure that out. But right now, it's like, if I have to drop off the face of the earth for a month, I'm not gonna feel guilty about it, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out community members who are observant and they perceive these things that we try to like not put out. Like, I'm exhausted, and someone in the DMs like, you know, I see it, and I'm like, that is small, but I'm like, thank you, because am I losing my mind? I don't know. So I love that when people are just like acknowledging that work is happening. Like, if I'm doing something that's like a casual conversation, but somebody who's aware is like, I know she's tired, I know she want to take a nap, and I'm like, I do, but like, you know, I'm working here, you know. So I love that when people kind of just like peep that and just like slide you a little note, just like, I see the work you're doing, I see you got it. That's like, that is little, but it's not little, because they remind you that like there are people who are like invested in this community and that they care about the people that, you know, facilitate this community for them. So
it's huge.
Shout out to y'all. Y'all know who y'all are, gang gang.
Especially when they come at you and they say, I understand the mission, and you're like, thank you.
Yes. Like,
I understand why you made that decision, because it goes back to the mission. And you're, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Y'all know who you are. Thank you.
They know.
When the community comes and tells you you're doing something right, it really is an affirming feeling. Like, I know we recently made a couple of changes to the app, and people were like, yes, thank you very much. Like, we really enjoyed this thing that you're doing. So that's really affirming, and it feels good.
And so I have a few more questions. So what goals do you have for your community? Like, what would you like to see from it in, like, you know, 5 years, the next 10 years? Like, what is kind of the short-term and long-term goals for you, for your community?
For Court Chat, we would really like to be like a household app name. So when you're flipping through, you know, your big three, whatever they may be, you know, Twitter, Instagram, Court Chat, Facebook, Court Chat, YouTube, Court Chat. So we're really ready to just be like right next to your big, you know, your top couple apps where you come in every day and, you know, scroll and spend your scroll time. 5 years, and then 10 years, we obviously would love to IPO and then retire somewhere with our millions of dollars. That's the 10-year goal.
The 5 to 10 year goal for Black and Micro, or the Black Microbiology Association, we have already applied to be a nonprofit, but so we're waiting for approval of that application. But essentially, I would like for us to become you know, a staple professional organization for Black microbiologists, and be able to advocate on behalf of Black microbiologists to other scientific organizations, and maybe even like policy-wise to different government organizations. That would be really cool to see. I would love for us to have an impact where we see more Black microbiologists and more Black scientists in high leadership positions. We don't really see that so much now. And so if we can be a conduit for that, that would also be really great. And then also to be like financially sustainable, so we could actually pay our people who are doing the work. We exist solely on donations at this point, both from like, yes, dear. Okay, primarily from personal donations, and then also from like different institutions. And so finding a way to raise enough money so that then we can maybe just like continually grow the money and not have to continually like fundraise for large amounts of money, hiring staff, so that this is the BMA is my fourth job, something like that, so that like we have people whose job it is primarily to help run the organization, and the people who are running it now can take more of an advisory role. Would also be really cool to see over the next 5 years. So
man, I mean, kudos to y'all, because I don't even know what next week will bring, but I really, you know, you mentioned something, Dr. Kishana, of just like sustainability, because what people don't realize, a lot of this is volunteer run, unpaid labor. I think people think that, you know, there's all this money coming in, but from where, from who? I mean, especially if you're already offering so much to the community for free. And so something maybe I won't need a 9-to-5. Maybe I'll be able to have a salary and have people salaried as well. I mean, maybe that would be amazing. I think having a HQ, some physical space, some kind of studio for Black women photographers would also be amazing. Some kind of just like pipeline with schools and different institutions to get folks hired, and that like internship or whatever, and maybe just have that pipeline working itself, I think would be amazing. But honestly, I have no idea what this place may bring, especially because, I mean, I know all of us did not have a global pandemic in our 5-year plan. So I'm just taking everything day by day, and hopefully, you know, I have a good feeling about all of us. Like, Candice, I'm sure one day your app will be acquired by whoever with billions. Like, I feel that. Like, I am not worried at all. And so I'm just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same kind of goals, sustainability, that we are not having to do, even though I love our fundraiser in our birthday month, but it's not just based on like who can give us money through Patreon and Cheering Charms. Though, hello, if you're watching this, please join our Patreon and send a cheering charm. This is all free, this whole thing, and everyone that's working on it is doing it out of the love of their heart. So I think that I would also just like to see us continue to be able to put out great content. And I would love to be able to see our community grow to the point where you're able to like see the return on investment. If you put the time in and the effort and and you put into that community, you see what you get out of it, whether it's you creating things or you finding new people to support or work with or collaborate with, or you finding new hobbies and working on them as hobbies with no other ulterior motive than that. You are able to come to the Black Girls Create community and know that like you're going to be a better person. I don't, that might be too, but you're gonna your life is gonna be enriched in a provable way.
Okay, so lightning round. Quickly, how can people help support your work?
Oh, I can go first. That thing that just popped up right there, do that.
Do
That
that.
right there. That. Yeah.
Honestly, that's all the support we really need, because, you know, the likes, the retweets, the follows, that's great. That's great, you know, free support. But to keep this thing going, to keep all of our businesses running, the organizations running, is actual financial support. You know, just investing in this work. Because as we mentioned earlier, it takes a lot of work, a lot of tireless and thankless hours to see the things you're seeing right now, like this Kickback. So do support financially if you can, or if you know people who can, reach out to them, because I'm sure word of mouth, LinkedIn, there's someone out there who can help support. So
for us particularly, obviously download the app, use it, give us feedback, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. It's Quirk Chat, so QUIRKCHAT.com. But like, seriously, money is good, of course, like all the things that everyone's saying, but for us particularly, download the app and like see what it is. When we're asking for feedback, like tell us what we need to do, let us know when there's a bug. Yeah, that specifically would help us, because when we get you know, engagement and things like that, then we can tell the nice people that fund us that we're doing well, and then they can pay us. So that always helps.
Yes, same. We don't have an app, but engagement on social media, engagement on our website, and all those things do help when we report to our donors what we have done with their money, and then they'll give us more money. So, and then also support our events. One of our main goals is community outreach. So when we have events that are for the community, share them, let everybody know. The pandemic has made it very clear that people need to know more about microbiology, and so we want to share that with everyone so we can do better, because I'm tired of the pandemic.
All right.
Can you get us out of it? I'm sorry. Like, I know you personally can't.
We are trying. It's not us.
Oh my goodness.
I'm actually good here. We can stay here. Like, I'm good.
No, ma'am.
In my backyard.
Okay, so
2 years.
these communities need your financial support if you have it, but also like the community making sure that you're spreading the word. Like, if you don't have money, because sometimes if we fall on hard times, download the apps, rate the apps, because that helps other people find the apps. You know what I mean? Give when you have it, and if you don't, just support the work so that other people can see it, and the people that have money can give money. That's how it works. Okay. And so I would like to thank you, thank all of our panelists and you, our audience, for joining. Remember that these panels are recorded, so if you missed something or just want to come back in the future, be able to find all the panels in the Black Girls Create YouTube channel. Our next panel, Book Talk, Ships and Sales, we'll have it in 15 minutes, which should give you time to take a break, get you some snacks, go shop in our virtual artist alley, tweet about Kuumba Kickback, give a donation to one of these lovely organizations, download some apps. But yeah, thank you for being here. Love talking to you all. And
Thank you all, especially Niffler.
yeah, thank you, Niffler, for keeping us on our toes.
Oh no,
Yeah,
you don't. Now you're
exactly.
shy. You don't want to talk no more now. You're getting attention, and now you don't want it. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.